We know that usually the Rebbe wouldn't write any maramokim or quote something from a Gemara for wherever it is without looking it up. But I do remember one time which it seems very clear that he wrote it without looking it up. And this was Sukkot Tovshin Chof Tes. Shabbos Chalamayit Sukkot, the Rebbe said a Maimer. The Maimer started with the words Chassidim van Shemaisayim Ragdim Lifneim, which is a loshon of the Gemara of the Mishnah concerning the dancing in the Beis Hamikdash and Simchas Beis HaSheva. So after Shabbos, the Maimer was written up, the Hanocha was made, was given into the Rebbe. And one day the Rebbe, when he got the Hanocha, he went into the Sukkah with the Hanocha, and in the Sukkah he was starting to be Magia that Maimer. He stayed in the Sukkah for a while. When he came out, he gave out the Maimer. It was Mugi only the beginning, and I don't know if he wrote then that there is no time, he has no time to Magia the rest, or it was said or understood, I don't remember. But Lepel Mamish, he was Magia at the beginning of the Maimer in the Sukkah. Now, when we saw what he was Magia, it was because in the Maimer, it started, like I said, that Chassidim van Shemaisi used to dance, and the Rebbe started saying that this inyan goes on Sukkot, which means the dancing was there on Sukkot. Ubifrat al Simchas Beis HaSheva, and especially concerning Simchas Beis HaSheva. In other words, it has to do with Sukkot, not with Tafke Simchas Beis HaSheva. Then he said Bifrat Simchas Beis HaSheva. So on these words where he said that this goes on Sukkot, seemingly connected to the Yont of Sukkot, and not with anything else, not with Simchas Beis HaSheva, the Rebbe was Magia and he wrote this Lashon. He wrote the Maramokim where it's from, Rambam, Hilchas Lulav, Peirik Ches, Halacha Yud Beis. The Rebbe quotes the Lashon of the Rambam. And after he says that they danced, it says, Shenema, the Rambam wrote, because it says in the Posik, Usmachtem lifnei Hashem alekechem shivas yomim. You should be happy in front of Hashem 7 days. And that means in the Beis Hamikdash, which is in front of Hashem, you have to be happy 7 days. So the Rambam connects it to the Simcha of the Yont of Sukkot in the Beis Hamikdash. Doesn't mention that it has to do with the drawing of the water. And then the Rebbe writes in the parentheses, B'tzorich iyun, we have to understand this, from Teiras Keyanim, and Yerushalmi Sukkah Peirik Gimel Alocha Aleph, in Bavli, Mem Gimel Aleph, Venkam Mekeme. That we have to understand how what the Rambam writes that it has to do with Sukkot, and doesn't mention Simchas Beis HaSheva, how it fits with what it says in Teiras Keyanim, what it says in Yerushalmi Sukkah Peirik Gimel Halocha Aleph, what it says in Bavli in Besichta Sukkah in our Gemara in Talmud Bavli Daf Mem Gimel Avad Aleph, and this is not the place to go into it. And then the Rebbe adds after the parentheses V'shom Halocha Yudalit in the Rambam. In the further halacha, again we see that he connects it to Sukkot, not to Simchas Beis HaSheva. He writes there that Meragdim Chulu, they danced b'mei Chag HaSukkos, in the days of Sukkot. So it's all part of this inyan that it's connected to Sukkot. And then the Rebbe added, V'ayin b'Pirush HaMishnayos. Look what it says in Pirush HaMishnayos of the Rambam. Which means because in Pirush HaMishnayos, the Rambam writes that the word Beis HaSheva is Shem HaMokim Shoim Misaktim L'Simcha. The place where they made ready for the Simcha, for the joy, for the dancing, was called Beis HaSheva. Why was it called Beis HaSheva? He says, they called it this name because the Pasuk says, you should draw the water with Simcha. B'meil, they called the place Beis HaSheva. So here from Pirush HaMishnayos, we do see some connection, etc. But the Rebbe writes, but we still have to understand it. So here Rebbe wrote all these Maramakemis and quotes the Lishenis, and he did this in the Sukkah. In the Sukkah, the Rebbe didn't have any Svarim, the few Svarim that they put in when they built the Sukkah, but there were no other Svarim. There was no Pirush HaMishnayos there, and there's no Gemara there, there's all this, and the Rebbe wrote this, and actually didn't write to the people, check it up or something. He wrote these Maramakemis, wrote this Lishenis, and it was all written without looking it up. So we see that sometimes the Rebbe did do that, writing Maramakemis and quote without looking it up. Just to mention that the Shaila that the Rebbe has here, the Rambam, that he doesn't connect it to Simchas Sheva, but just to Sukkos, there's a long Arichas in Likutei Sichos Chelik Yud Zayin, starting from page 267. There the Rebbe talks in his Masber this whole Rambam. But here the Rebbe just wrote the question with the different Maramakemis and quotations.